Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Golf Industry in Business Seminars. This is part of our quarterly presentation on driving revenue at your club and facility. This morning, we are focusing on driving merchandise sales per round and highlighting some merchandise operations. We want to introduce the 2021 Public Merchandiser of the Year and the Resort Merchandiser of the Year for the SoCal section. We have, so let me get back here. We have Ross Marcano, Director of Golf Operations at Barona Creek, and he is the recipient of the 2021 Resort Merchandiser of the Year Award for the section. He's going to be presenting at the latter part of our presentation this morning. We also have Brian Hughes, Head Golf Professional and Club Manager for the Greg Norman course at PGA West. He is also the recipient of the 2021 Public Merchandiser of the Year Award for the section. Good morning, gentlemen. Thanks for joining us on the GIBS this morning.
Good morning, John.
Good morning, John. Thanks for having us.
Happy to be here.
Indeed. So we are concluding our second quarter's monthly golf industry and business seminars, talking about driving revenue. We had Eric Lohman on 2 months ago about driving green fee revenue in the post-COVID era. Yours truly presented last month on driving food and beverage dollars per round. And this month, rounding out the second quarter GIBS seminars, are you two gentlemen presenting on driving merchandise dollars per round. We're delighted to have you on. And thank you very much for carving out this time to share your expertise about your operations and, not only how you got the award this year, because obviously the efforts that you've put in that have earned this award are so much larger than just the efforts of this past year. It's spent over the span of both of your careers. So we're delighted to have you on the webcast this morning. Brian, why don't you take it away with PGA West?
Yeah, well, thank you so much, John, and thank you to the section. First, got to start out by saying how honored I am to receive this award and excited to share it with our team here at the Greg Norman course. The team truly deserves all the credit. They're behind the scenes doing all the hard work. So I got a great staff here, very fortunate. So we will celebrate this together. First off, I'll start talking a little bit about the Greg Norman golf course, our shop, our team, and my beliefs on merchandising. The Greg Norman course opened in 1999. We are the newest course to the PGA West portfolio. We are a standalone clubhouse, golf shop, restaurant, 18 holes of golf. We are inside a residential guard gate, which is kind of unique to PGA West. The only other club that we have is the Citrus Club that's inside a guard gate and the Pete Dye Mountain and Dunes. So when our guests arrive through that residential guard gate, they have the feeling of being a member for a day. And that's our motto here is, we want to treat everyone as a member for a day. We not only have members that access and play our golf course, but we obviously have the public that come, and we want them to feel like a member for a day. And we get that a lot on our survey responses that they felt that way. So it's working. We're going to keep doing that. And with that, we create some loyalty that I'll touch on here in a little bit. We have roughly about 1,600 square feet of retail space. We carry around 11 brands for men's apparel and 7 or 8 for women's. Our pricing strategy, we use Keystone pricing. As some of you know, we have been purchased by a new owner. We have a management team of Century Golf going on almost 2 years now. So we rely a lot on them. They rely on us to continue to do what we're doing on a daily basis, but it's been fantastic having a golf company manage us. They are the experts, so we have some resources when we need it. We do about 36,000 rounds a year, like I touched on, with both member rounds and outside guest rounds. My team, I'm really excited and fortunate to have the mix of individuals that I do that work in our shop. They truly care about what they do. They have a passion for retail, and it shows in our sales. So we have very little turnover. I've been here at the Norman for going on 8 years now, and all of our team has been here for 6 or more years. So Very proud of that. They obviously like it here. They're able to build relationships with our members and our guests, which get the traffic into our shop. So happy to have them. And like I said, it's all about them. So they are driven.
Brian, you said you've been there for 8 years and you experienced very little turnover in, in the hourly world, especially post-COVID. What are some of the things you do to keep the continuity of your staff together in this time when, especially frontline coworkers and retail, food and beverage operations, turnover is rampant? What are some of the things you do to keep your team together over those 8 years?
Yeah, we've been fortunate with COVID, and I think a lot of it is, I'll touch on later, but we have a great incentive program for the team. There's not only incentive with monetary, but we also do some clothing allowances for them. But it's creating that team environment, and we try to form that. We have built that here at the Norman course and other PGA West courses. When we closed this summer for a course restoration, and we were able to move some of the team over to some of our other clubhouses. So I think that, them knowing that they have a place here, they have a job here, they're part of a family. We are a big family. So, and they enjoy working here. So I'm very fortunate, and it's just caring about one another. That's kind of the main thing that we try to do, look out for one another.
Now, did you lose anybody being closed for, you said you were closed for, how long were you guys closed for? 3 months?
We were closed for 3 months. Yeah, we just opened about a week and a half ago. I didn't lose anyone in our golf shop. I lost one gentleman from our outside service team that was going back to school, so it had nothing to do with us being closed, but just had a full workload with school, and so he wasn't able to return. But like I said, very fortunate to have all the staff come back, and a lot of them did go work at other clubhouses during our closure. So
that's amazing for them to be able to do that. Were there shortages in labor in the other clubhouses that allowed room for them to come over there and keep their hours? Because that's really phenomenal to be closed for 3 months and not lose any of your merchandising team or your professional golf shop team is pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, exactly. With us being closed, that pushed rounds from us to our other courses. So we were able to ramp up a little bit with the staff at the other clubhouses. So very fortunate. And one other thing, my philosophy with my team is pretty simple. We are here in the hospitality business. We need to make sure that we are delivering on service. Like I touched on, the team really cares, they're passionate, and they do deliver on that service. If we create the relationships with our members and guests, they're going to have the loyalty to do their shopping with us in our golf shop. So a little bit on our buying philosophy. So we do have a director of retail who oversees all the buying for all 5 of our clubhouses here at PGA West and the Citrus Club. Our buying strategies are largely based on our buy plan that is provided by Century. Our buy plan is determined by vendor sell-through and corporate agreements that they have with the vendors. That in conjunction with the vendor sales reports, we're able to determine the frequency of drops by vendor and size of the deliveries. We're able to provide feedback on the vendor mix to ensure we have the right product for our shop with Century. That feedback comes from our golf shop. I'll touch on how we record that and how we get that to her in a little bit. But it's based on the feedback from our team and also the vendor sales reports that she uses. In most cases, our buyer, she's able to make vendor adjustments based on the information and feedback that she receives from us. Last year, as everyone knows, it was a kind of a unique year with the pandemic, and sales were, shirts were kind of flying off the rack once people got back into the shop, more than previous years. And as a result, as we moved into, we were chasing product, all season to make sure we were filling the shop. So her strategy moving forward this year was we anticipated the same pattern to hold true. So she decreased the size of our deliveries, but increased the frequency of our drops to ensure the new product flows throughout the season. in looking at how we've done it this year, and talking with her, we feel this may be a continued practice that we'll use at our resort public courses. So, moving on, keeping the golf shop fresh and new. As a lot of places do, we rotate product about every week to a week and a half. It gives the feel of having the new product arriving. Like I touched on earlier, I'm fortunate to have the staff as they truly care about what they are doing, and they take pride in their golf shop. I let them roll with their ideas of where the product placement needs to be. They know what works best to showcase our merchandise. As you can see there, we have a table as you first walk into our golf shop with Greg Norman. Obviously, being a Greg Norman golf course, we need to have his product and promote it, and that's where we put the newest and latest product from Greg Norman as you first walk into the shop. We also have a table in the middle of our shop. There'll be a picture, I think, a little later on, but we use that to rotate product in and out of. We use it to display product for holidays, new arrivals, or if we just want to showcase a certain line. Then you can see in that bottom picture there on the right, when the weather permits and in season, once we get some cooler temperatures, we have some nice sliding doors that open up onto our patio. So we're able to open those up, which creates, an inviting space that attracts traffic to come through when they're walking to our restaurant or walking out to the practice facility. They're able to kind of grab them there and jump right in. So if you can move to the next slide, John, I'll talk a little bit about our staff engagement with our members, guests, and the importance of service. As you all know, this is huge, and this is what creates that loyalty that I talked about earlier with our members and our guests, enabling to get them back into our golf shops. One thing that the staff does, and we've implemented this, I would say when I first got here, we have a notebook that we create, and the team will list out members and guests with their phone number, their sizes, what vendors they prefer. Once we get some new product in, we'll hold their size and put it in the back. We'll give them a call, invite them in. They'll take a look at it, and that way they don't come into the shop. Oh, we just got our new Peter Millar in, but unfortunately we don't have your size. Well, we have it for them that they hold in the back. So it really creates, those relationships with our team and the members and guests. And obviously we all like that little extra attention, and members and guests really appreciate it. Our buyers report. Now, this is something that our team does. I have one team member that's responsible for filling this out and providing this to our director of retail on a weekly basis. So obviously we list out, what product is moving, what isn't moving, any suggestions of new product from feedback from our members and guests that we don't have in our shop. So not only gives us the right product, but also helps our director of retail with her fill-in orders. She is very busy with 5 clubhouses, as you can imagine, 5 different golf shops. So the more that we can do on our end to help her out, easier for her to stay on top of things. We also have a retail calendar that we put together at the beginning of season with some promos, each month based on sales. When we're pacing behind, we'll get into that retail calendar. We'll pick out some promos, and readily available. It's already done. We don't have to sit and think about it. We'll do a buy one item at regular price, get one 50% off. We'll do 2 hats for 50 during the holidays. For St. Patrick's Day, anything green in our shop, we'll give a percentage off. So really try to use that for promotions, when we're pacing behind. I don't like to start out the month doing that, but it's a good way for us to catch up when sales are a little bit slower. And then we also use other departments to promote our merchandise. When we get new product in, we'll use our outside staff during their conversations with members and guests to promote what new vendors we have coming in, what lines we have coming in. any promotions or sales that we're running for the month. We have a lot of group play here in the season on our public courses. So we give a discounted percentage to those groups that book their group rounds of golf with us. So we'll use the outside staff as well to promote that discount with those groups, and also have a certificate that we put on each golf cart. So, we use the beverage cart to sell some cigars. We use the beverage cart to sell sunscreen. They have that on the cart. If they don't happen to grab that before they leave the golf shop, they're able to get it once they're out on the golf course. So, really using the whole team, to help promote and retail is obviously, it helps in every aspect of it. We have some events that drive sales, not only demo days and trunk shows, but one I'd like to highlight is we call it our Rock the Range. It's an event that we have out on our practice facility. We'll put a portable bar out. We'll have some music playing. We invite some vendors out. They'll set up on the range. And then we'll have our golf instructors come over from our golf academy and other professionals from other clubhouses come over to give complimentary 10-minute lessons. We usually do this at the beginning of season when everyone is coming back into town. It gets them excited about the club. It gets them ready for a great golfing season. And then with that, we'll run a special in our golf shop for gloves and balls for them to load up before the season. So
the Rock the Range is not just it's a demo day as well, but it also focuses on non-hard goods and soft goods. It's all set up out there, or is there no hard goods out there at all?
Yeah, so we'll do some hard goods out on the range, and then like I said, we'll run some promos in the golf shop, which gets that traffic to come through our shop and run those specials on load up for the season on your gloves, load up for balls, and then obviously gets them in looking at all the merchandise. So gets a nice flow of traffic through our clubhouse, through our golf shop, and helps us with our sales. So, not only good for the sales, but also good for our academy instructors to promote themselves.
Certainly. So being a public golf course, you don't have the captive audience that private clubs do in terms of a membership email database. What are some of the ways that you build your communication medium in terms of capturing email addresses and social media? Can you talk about some of the things you do to build up that catalog?
Yeah. So we every time we book a tee time, we make sure that we get an email address and a zip code from our guests. So we create the database within our tee sheet. We'll send some specials out through that to the guests, and then we tie in. We have a PGA West Inside the Ropes magazine that we'll email out to our guests as well through our database of emails that we've collected. So really to highlight, what's going on this month. We'll highlight a golf shop, or we'll highlight our golf academy, or whatever it is, but we'll send that out via email to the database that we have. And then we also, on our golf carts, we have a QR code that you can scan with your phone, and we ask a couple questions there, and we collect the email through that as well. So really gaining some traction on that and trying to get our database built up.
Now, this question is probably more for you, Brian, than Ross. Being a seasonal property that needs to showcase a certain level of inventory, especially with a brand as well known as PGA West, what are some of the things that you do towards the tail end of the season or in the off season to blow out merchandise to make room for the next year? Because you really only have a finite time to sell the majority of your soft goods, certainly.
Yeah, exactly. It really depends on that clientele that walks through the door, so in season, obviously with higher rates for our green fees, people are more willing to purchase more, and then we transition to the summer where we have that bargain green fee shopper that comes in, and they're not going to have that extra spend on items. So I'm not big on, like I talked about earlier, of doing discounts only when we're pacing behind. So kind of towards the end of season, we start to move some product. We have a sales rack that we move items onto and try to capture those guests, in season guests before they leave town. And then in the summer months, we obviously back down what we have and then continue to run sales throughout the summer months.
Can you talk about what you do to burn merchandise that you can't sell anymore? If you don't like to do discount racks and do buy one, get one's frees and discounting scales like that, what are some of the things you do to get rid of stuff?
We've been pretty fortunate. We don't hang on to stuff too long. We'll transfer some merchandise to some of our busier clubs. We all have the same PGA West logo, which is obviously interchangeable amongst all of our clubhouses other than the Citrus Club. So we're able to transfer product to other shops for those that are busier, and then sometimes we'll give some of it to staff kind of at the end. If we've held on to it for a long time, we'll transfer it to other departments and give it to those staff members.
So is that philosophy that you have there at the Norman course, is that your philosophy, Brian, or is that the philosophy over all the clubhouses and all the golf shops?
It's pretty much across the board, that our director of retail has kind of created that. And we try to have the consistency, amongst all of our clubhouse. We obviously have the same logo, the PGA West logo, the mountain logo. And then we'll have a few highlighted items in our shop, be a hat that has the Greg Norman course on it, or a t-shirt that says Greg Norman course. But we don't have a lot of the items that we put just the Norman, just for those reasons where we're not able to transfer them to other properties or clubhouses. So.
Okay. Mr. Marcano, are you ready to jump in?
Let me just jump. Let me
go
Brian, one back. I talked a little bit. Sorry. I want to jump into our what we do to incentivize our team. Like I talked about earlier with the retention, we do have that retail incentive. I'm sure a lot of shops do this, but if we beat our budget for the month, we'll take a percentage of that money that we made over the budget, and we'll split it up amongst a percentage of it amongst the team based on the hours that they work. And with this, we track it daily. So they have a spreadsheet at the front counter that lets them know where they're at to plan every day. It really motivates them on a daily basis to look at that, not only drive the sales, but, and upsell when we're pacing a little behind. So they're excited about that. It keeps them motivated daily. We also just started recently, about a year and a half ago, where we're allowing the golf shop staff to get 2 shirts each month. They get a picket from the floor. Here at my clubhouse, I only have, including myself, there's 5 of us. So very small amount of people. So it doesn't deplete our shop, but we'll give them 2 shirts each month in season. And then in the summer months, we'll let them pick one out. We want our team wearing our product and promoting it. So it makes them feel good. They're able to talk about it, able to sell it a lot easier. And then like a lot of places do, we do some vendor trainings with the team a couple times a year to have them be able to speak about the product and what it has to offer. So,
Brian, backing up, that is amazing to be able to, on so many levels, track the daily sales to plan, having the entire team on board with where you are, and then everything in excess of plan on the, I'm assuming, net gets broken up amongst the teammates that work in there. That's phenomenal because
a percentage of that.
Okay. So I think that really speaks to the understanding that the merchandise operation is, the revenue that's made there is not paying the majority of the bills that it takes to run that club. It's the guest fees and it's the green fees that you guys are in business for. But to promote the health and the overall presentation of the golf shop, which is very important to, keeping that top line driven model going, bringing the team in to share the profits like that is really ingenious.
Yeah, and that kind of creates that family feel that I talked about, in our retention of the staff. So they feel like they're part of it. I mean, there's nothing worse than them not knowing where we stand and someone sitting in a back office, looking at all the numbers. I want them to know where we're at, and it helps motivate them as well. So it's worked out well for us.
Now, when you say that's a spreadsheet, someone's actually doing that, or that's calibrated off a report that's run daily or weekly and left behind the counter for everyone to see?
No, we have our closer in our golf shop will fill out the daily sales. We create the spreadsheet obviously at the beginning of the month, and then they'll just put in the daily sales and track it that way. So they know exactly where they stand.
Well, especially having them actually do it makes them, own it and understand it and be close to it, as opposed to just printing out a report, stapling it and throwing it behind the counter where no one really looks at it. So that's
Exactly.
really impressive, really impressive.
Yeah, we want them to be involved in it. So have them put the numbers in it. It seems to work well.
That's great. I think because in so many operations where the to a fault, the understanding that the merchandise concession is not a moneymaker, it's easy for the focus on the presentation and the experience of the golf shop as a whole goes by the wayside, and unfortunately, it creates a negative impression, a negative first impression to the customer that's walking in before they even get to the golf course, and it's because the feeling is, well, the merchandise operation doesn't make any money, we don't need to focus on it. But in terms of driving the overall green fee or guest fee number, you need to have a good looking golf shop. It's kind of like having a mansion with a very ugly mailbox. If there's an ugly old beat up mailbox in front of a mansion, it takes away from the first impression that you have about that mansion and gets people thinking, oh, okay, well, it's a beautiful house, but look at that mailbox. There's something wrong with that operation, and that golf shop really needs to be that newel post, that mailbox that is in charge of that first impression. Because you walk into a golf shop that doesn't have fresh merchandise, looks like the staff doesn't care, looks empty or messy or dirty, negative impressions beget more negative impressions, just like positive impressions beget more positive impressions. So you walk into a golf shop that's neglected, you go to the first tee, it might be a beautiful club and a beautiful golf course, but because of the first impression that was created by that golf shop, now the customer's on that first tee looking for more problems. As opposed to a great golf shop that's displayed beautifully, a staff that's engaged and cares about that first impression, and that specialness to a well-run and well-presented golf shop. Now they're on the first tee looking for more good things, because that first impression begets more good impressions. So that's
exactly.
tremendous.
I agree 100%. Our front door, from when you walk into the front door to where our counter is, you have to walk through the shop. So like you said, having it nice and clean and merchandised right and having some nice looking product, I mean, it gets people excited before they even get to the counter. So
right, and that's even if they don't buy a single thing. That's just part of their first impression of when they're checking in about to go to the golf course. Because even people that are there planning on buying a shirt and they want the PGA logo, that's not why they're there. They're there to play the golf course.
Exactly.
So being able to get them off on the right track with a good golf shop presentation, operation, and staff engagement, it promotes the greater good of why we're there, is to sell more golf rounds.
Yep, exactly, 100%.
Ross, are you ready to roll?
Yeah, you bet, John.
All right, here we go. We're going on to Ross Marcano. He's the 2021 Merchandiser of the Year for the section on the resort level. Ross is the Director of Operations down at Barona Creek, and this portion of the GIBS will be covered by Ross, and we'll have some Q&A as we get towards the end of Ross's presentation, and also for all the guests, all the members that are on the webcast this morning. If you've got questions or comments for Brian or Ross, we're going to open it up here after Ross's presentation, and feel free to jump in, raise your hand, throw a chat out there, unmute yourself, and we'd love to have you participate. Go for it, Ross. It's all yours.
All right. Thank you, John. And just want to say thank you to the section selection committee. I'm very humbled to be honored with this award, Merchandiser of the Year. And it's pretty exciting for me, for my team here at Barona. Just kind of thought I'd start out with just the history of what you see here, the Verona Valley Ranch. You know, we're on an Indian reservation. The golf course sits on about 212 acres. And we started out in 2001. We were built as part of a vision of the Verona tribe to have a resort. They did have bingo that in the early 80s. That's how the tribe started their gaming operation. It turned into a casino in the early 90s. And then this casino that we have now actually was built in 2003. So a little history on the gaming. Verona has kind of been a forerunner in California Indian gaming. When they did start out with that bingo hall, they had some lawsuits they had to shut down. They had to basically, you know, claim that, and rightfully so, that, you know, we're under federal law and so forth. So they kind of paved the way for what you see now in California with Indian gaming in the early 80s. So like I said, sometime in the late 90s, they had a vision to create this resort with a new casino. They wanted to put a hotel, which they hadn't had before. And that's the picture you see there. It's about 400 rooms. And then that's our 9th hole that you see in the foreground. So to go along with this, it's about a $220 million project. The golf course was part of that vision, which I'm very fortunate and happy that, of course, I'm happy that they did that. We opened in 2001, and then the hotel you see there, the casino is next to it, opened in 2003. So if you look to the far left, very small little building with what's called a cupola, that's us. We're dwarfed by the hotel. That's a round building. And it's a ranch.
Hold on a second, Ross. Everyone needs to know what a cupola is.
You know, all I know is that's what it looks like, John. I don't know the history of it, except that it probably relates to a ranch in some regard, because that's kind of been the theme of the resort that we have here. So those peaks there on top of the roof of the hotel, there's 3 of them there, and there's one on top of the golf shop. If you look to the left, those are cupolas. So something I learned when the building was made. And there is a roof on that hotel, which is unique. Just goes into the theme of being a ranch. And I didn't mention that the Verona tribe started in 1932 on this property. You see those mountains in the background. Just beyond those is a reservoir called the, and I'm blanking on the name of the reservoir, El Cap Reservoir. That's where they actually lived, but in 1932, the government moved them to the land that they have now to make room for that reservoir. And that's where they've been since 32. They actually purchased some cattle and were ranchers. That's how they sustained themselves back then. And that ties into the theme of the property here. But just a little bit of the history of Verona, if you haven't been out here. Now you know a little bit. If you have been out here, well, now you know a little bit more about us. And we opened in 2001. So just getting into a little bit of the merchandise, that's why we're here. And maybe if there's the next slide, John, and we'll start looking at some of the pictures of the shop. We are on about 1,000 square feet of space. Essentially, you know, from the beginning, we want to provide the essentials, right? That's when, and I think John mentioned it, you know, people are here to play your golf course and they'll start out in the golf shop. So obviously you're going to have your hats, some golf balls, gloves, but generally I don't buy a lot of extra things. I keep things very simple. And if I had to, you know, tie our merchandise philosophy into just a single word, I would say simplicity. You know, we have about, you know, 3 brands that we buy from as far as apparel goes. And then we have some other brands that we or companies we use for towels and so forth and hats. But I would say the core companies that we buy from, 2 apparel brands, and about 5 for the golf clubs. All the leading manufacturers of golf clubs. We're a big, mostly Callaway. We're a big Callaway account, so you'll see Callaway clubs, pretty much the full array of Callaway clubs in our shop. And part of what goes to that simplicity is loyalty to these brands, okay, but also so that we're able to display more of the brands. You can, and you know, when you take over a shop, you know, who am I going to buy from, right? And how much of that product am I going to display? So, you know, our philosophy there has been, well, we're going to buy from less companies, okay, but we're going to display more of that company's products, which, you know, you can go the other way and maybe buy more apparel brands and just order less, but so you could go either way. I think we've been pretty successful keeping it this simple. And like I said, so with Callaway, we buy quite a bit from them. So we do get, you know, rebates, we get a little better pricing. They have a nice program for rental clubs where we get new rental clubs every year, which when somebody's visiting from out of town, you know, pretty much they're going to get a set that's probably better than what they have at home. That's a nice impression you're making on that guest. And like John mentioned about, you know, good vibes. When somebody comes into a shop, you know, it starts out with when they do get in the shop, and if they get nice clubs and they see a shop that's pretty organized and so forth, looks good, you know, it creates positive vibes and thoughts of that guest. And so we're loyal to the brands, like I mentioned, Callaway and a couple others, and that just helps with getting a little better pricing. Ultimately, I think we like to keep, you know, the counter when you check in. We like to keep it fairly clean. We don't like it to be cluttered. You know, I'm kind of a stickler for just trying to keep things, you know, dusted and somewhat organized. And if you get a counter that's a little bit unorganized, you know, it just doesn't quite look as organized. So I try to keep the actual countertop looking fairly clean with just general things that someone's going to need, like sunscreen and lip balm and these types of things. Maybe some souvenir ball markers, and that's really it. You know, so often we're you know, approached by a bunch of companies, you know, trying to sell this and that. So I try to keep it somewhat limited. Again, it just goes to the simplicity of the ordering.
So Ross, what are some of the things that you do to get the staff to prioritize merchandise sales and promotions that you have? What are some of the leadership things that you do with your team to get them to focus on the merchandise operation when guests come into Verona?
Right, good question. And you know, we do, I didn't mention, about 25,000 rounds, I'm going to say, on average throughout the 20 years we've been open, which is by design. You know, we are a little bit remote, and our prices might be just a little bit higher, but if you're a high-end casino player, you do get a discount. And so we don't do too many rounds. We have a kind of a smaller staff. So really, our staff is just really trying to build relationships with the guests that come in. Our focus really is that casino floor, okay? So that's the reason why we're here, because we're supported by that casino floor. So we'll talk about casino promotions and so forth to our guests, and we'll let them know that, you know, they do get discounts based on their tier levels. Quite often, we're like a casino host. We'll have to call and get a comp, because the casino will comp a guest pretty much anything based on their play. So when you talk about the incentive of the staff, I think we don't have what like Brian has and what I've experienced at other clubs, based on sales incentives like that. Really, it's with every employee we have, we're focused on, why we're here. It's the casino floor, and just build relationships with our players. Brian mentioned that he has kind of a background on the members that, or the guests that frequent the shop. He has a card with their sizes. Okay, we do similar things. At least I do when I buy. I keep in mind, the core guests that we get and what they might like, and the sizes that they have, the sizes that they wear, and so I keep that in mind. I don't necessarily keep a list as much as few that we have. It's pretty easy just to remember what I need to buy. But so we don't have literal incentives, except that we do accept tips. Okay, so with those relationships that you make, the guests, they do appreciate that, and they show it in tipping. So if there is one incentive, perhaps that's it. We don't solicit that. It's just something that happens.
Certainly, especially with the high rollers. Hey, Ross, backing up a little bit to your rental program with the rental clubs, are they purchased at 25 to 40% off a wholesale? And at the end of the term, do they buy them back, or do you sell these sets at that time? How do you work through your rental club program from a purchasing standpoint to a returning or selling and getting new ones? You mentioned that it's important for that from an impression standpoint to have a good set of rental clubs for the guests, especially so many casino players or people that arrive without their golf clubs. How do you keep that fresh, current, and how do you prioritize it?
No, that's a good question, and you just have to buy an awful lot of product from Callaway, and then they provide it at no charge. No,
oh, wow.
So I don't know what the level of buying that we have with Callaway necessarily. I mean, I do know, but what they require, there's a certain level.
The rental clubs are free?
So they actually provide them at no charge. What I end up doing is buying the golf bags, and I only do 20 rental sets because we do so few rounds at a time. So
that's a lot of rental sets. At Monterey, I had one left-handed, one right-handed for men and for women. That's it.
Well, there you go. And a resort, and as compared to a private club. So that's and it's great for the guest that comes in. And like I said, most of the time it's better than what they have at home. And we charge $75 for the rental set, but we do include a souvenir. It's a pouch, and there's 6 golf balls inside, and the pouch is logoed, so the guest can leave with that, which is pretty cool. So we have them in the shop, pretty much on display behind the counter when a guest checks in. It's good advertising for Callaway as well, and maybe I've had several times where you might get a conversation going about, hey, are those the latest Callaway clubs? They're checking in and their thought is playing golf, and then they see the clubs and they remember, oh, I tried my buddy's Callaway and those were pretty good. And then they might ask if you have a demo club. And so it's a good conversation starter, or has been, I've noticed in the past. And going back to the staff, and of course, all of us should be educating our staff when you talk about leadership. In promoting sales, it's important with any product that's in the shop. When you come to Verona, every single staff member is going to know, all the selling points, whether it be golf balls. How often do we have to recommend golf balls? Every day. So learning about the different reasons, how to fit someone into a golf ball or a club, whether it be wedges, putters, drivers. Educating the staff is important. It's fun. It's I wouldn't consider myself a geek when it comes to to golf clubs. I'm not someone that likes to tinker, but I do try to educate myself on the very basics of what's going to help somebody's game. And so education is definitely important when you're talking about sales, and then it helps build relationships. You know, we get quite a few, even though we're a resort, we do get quite a few guests that are, you can call them returning, but you know, the core, we do have a core golfers that come through there. So, and one other thing, as far as, you know, building relationships, I think all of us have that, you know, man or woman that they have to have the newest thing, right? Something comes in, they see a new shirt or whatever, or a new collection that you know they're going to buy, and or a club. So our staff knows who those people are, and we definitely give them a little extra attention, because that just ends up in being more sales. So
now, Ross, you had mentioned that Verona right now is 9 holes only because of the drought. You're only watering the greens on one of the 9s. That obviously affects traffic and the amount of rounds that you have. As we talked last night when we connected, we talked about the top line driven focus in terms of long-term health of a business, as opposed to a bottom line driven focus, and promoting that spiral to continue to go upwards as opposed to downwards, focusing on that revenue. How do you keep the shop full doing half the rounds, and how do you move the merchandise that's not moving based on half of those rounds? Because it's not as if now that you have 9 holes only and you're doing half the rounds, or 60% of the rounds, is not as if you could just have half the merchandise in your shop. What are some of the things you're doing to still keep the place looking full and moving through the merchandise that you have that's not selling?
I'd say that that's a work in progress, John. This new situation for us started July 1, so we're just a couple months into it. You know, another thing, it hasn't been easy to get product in. I think Brian mentioned it last year. He was chasing merchandise, and seems like I'm doing the same thing. So right now I'm still waiting on some product I ordered in August, unfortunately, and I'm very understanding of the reasons why. But how do I keep it full? You know, I'm looking at, you know, the history of our sales, and I'm going to probably put a line in the sand, and reduce how many drops that we make, or that we receive, and go from there, and see how sales go each month. So basically keep a close eye on the reports that I get, and go from there. And that's all you can do. It's, you know, it's tough to predict, you know, what the future holds. And so I think that's all you can do is stay on top of things, and base your buying on sales, which is pretty simple. And that's the way, and that goes back to our general philosophy. We just kind of keep it simple that way. But, you know, to answer your question, that's essentially what we do. One other incentive I wanted to mention, you know, as far as driving revenue for tournaments, like 24 or more, when we book them, we charge an extra $10 per person that we give back to the tournament. So let's say it is a 24-person tournament, they're going to have a $240 certificate for the shop that they can use maybe for closest to the hole or what have you. So that's something that we do. We don't necessarily discount the round for the tournament, which might be unique to other places. I'm not sure, but you know, that's been kind of a successful way to, you know, generate a little more sales, especially when you have a group come in and that. So there is discounts for employees as well. We have about 1,500 at the moment, I think 1,600. So we advertise when we need to maybe move merchandise in our employee daily, they call it a pre-shift, that gets read to the staff when they check into work. and we might advertise shop sales in there. So that helps us move inventory, whether it be new or stuff that needs to move. We do have a sale rack in the back that we have items that are 25 to 50% off as well to help us move. So that's the front of our shop there. It's a beautiful building. Like I said, it's about 1,000 square feet. And you can see the countertop. We try to keep it fairly clean. Goes to those positive images that John's talking about and that Brian mentioned as well when you walk in the Norman course. But and also for us, unique is that our fabrication over here, they built everything in the shop, the counters and the slat wall. So we didn't have a company do it for us. We did it ourselves. And so you'll see the same product used throughout the casino. So that's pretty unique. Any more slides in there, John, just for the heck of it? You know, nice way to display the hats, kind of keeps them organized because people come in all the time. Where are your hats? Well, there you go. And they sit there for a couple minutes just trying to figure it out. Now they were hoping you just show them one hat. Now they got 12 to choose from, you know. Nice spot there. We have a couch there for the shoes, make it nice and comfortable. We only carry one brand for shoes, keeping it simple. And for us with low rounds, we found that, you know, if we had a couple of brands and then you have all these different options, you know, styles, we started to get overrun with, you know, shoes. The inventory got too high. So we're down to one shoe company with 4 different styles in men's and 2 in women's. So just the view around the shop, you know, we use the company's furniture a little bit. The Travis Matthews, that's actually a door that it's sitting on. So like I said, we try to keep the theme of the property is ranch theme. So that goes to our furniture as well. We got the Indian pottery there, the artifacts that we got from the cultural center that's down the road. So you'll see on the ground there on the left, that's actual rock they would use to grind up things. So that's just an artifact. And then there's some drums and so forth. So kind of tying in the cultural history of the Barona tribe, which is very cool. And you can feel it when you walk in the golf shop there. So that gives you a little feel for our operation here. Like I say, it's about 1,000 square feet. And that one on the right is just when you walk in, that's a table, and we've got the pottery there. You know, just trying to give it a nice warm feeling and keep it somewhat neat and so forth. And I think that creates, you know, a buying. It gets in the mind of the golfer. Maybe I should buy something that looks pretty cool the way it's displayed, right? I mean, that's a big part of what we do is, you know, make it appealing to the guest when they walk in. So
certainly. Well, Ross, I think it's clear from this morning's GIBS on driving merchandise dollars per round that you and Brian definitely get the top line driven model. So often it's easy and it's been extremely beneficial in the post-COVID era, obviously. But prior to that, it's easy to start to focus too much on the non-revenue portions of your business in terms of labor and expenses and cost of sales. And when operators start to focus on the non-revenue aspects of their business and cutting costs, it creates a downward moving spiral that continues to move downward. Once you start cutting, you can't uphold the amenity and the product that you intended to sell originally, and you have to continue to cut more costs, and you end up losing your customer base. But both of you guys, it sounds clearly like you guys buy into the top line driven model where you drive the experience, you drive the revenue, you drive the top line. That may swell costs, but in the long run, it creates more bottom line by focusing on the top line driven product, and that spiral definitely continues to move upward. So that is all the time that we have this morning on the GIBS. Want to thank Brian Hughes and Ross Marcano for coming on the webcast and sharing their expertise. And again, to the both of you, congratulations on your Merchandiser of the Year award. Well deserved, and looking forward to seeing you guys at the President's Dinner in December.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, John.
As for
Yeah,
everybody on the
thank you so
webcast
much,
this morning,
John.
we will be, this is recorded and we will be uploading it to the section website as part of our ongoing golf industry and business seminars webcasts that have been going on a monthly basis all year. Thank you very much for supporting the GIBS, and we'll see you all very soon. Take care out there and keep driving that revenue.
Thanks,
Take
John.
care.
Thanks for organizing.
Thanks, Brian.
Appreciate it.
Thank you guys.
Take care.